Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. April was a really good month. I read 9 books, some of which were really good, some were less good. And without further delay, let's get straight into the books. The first book was Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I don't have a physical copy of this. I read it on my Kindle, which I downloaded for free. And this book does not need to be described in regard to the plot. Alice in Wonderland is extremely well known. A young girl follows a rabbit into a rabbit hole and has a series of adventures. And frankly, I didn't like this book. I gave it a mere 2 stars on Goodreads. It had good ideas in the book, what with the playing card soldiers and such, but overall it didn't work for me, and I felt it just too insignificant, really. And the ending to the book I felt was a letdown, for reasons I'm not going to go into in case you haven't read it. But overall, it just wasn't interesting and nothing about it grabbed me. And it doesn't help the fact that I'm not really into sort of fantastical fantasy either. The second book that I read was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a science fiction dystopian novel, and it's about a plague or disease that ravages the world, kills up an enormous amount of the population, and there is a series of survivors who then have to sort of manage to not be murdered by other people and sort of try and rebuild themselves and the world around them. Now this, unlike something like The Stand by Stephen King, is not about two societies, a good and a bad one, trying to sort of battle it out to survive. This is more just how one society would survive, and it's kind of a personal tale for some of the characters as well. I didn't rate this that highly though. I gave it a mere 3 stars on Goodreads. It was good and it had good ideas, but it just felt a little bit flat in places and not exactly a lot happened, so I didn't overly love it, but it was still a solid book, just not a favourite of mine. The next book was the science fiction book for my SFF reading project which I've been doing, and that is the Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. And frankly, I loved this book really badly. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I only gave it 5 out of 5 stars because Goodreads doesn't allow you to give you 6 out of 5 stars, unfortunately. I'm not going to talk about it particularly because I did a video review of this 2 weeks ago, but it is science fiction and it's frankly amazing, and I recommend this to everybody. The next book that I read was The Hard Way by Lee Child. This is the 10th book in the Jack Reacher series, of which there are currently 20. And overall, Jack Reacher is an ex-military policeman, American one, and he wanders around America getting into situations and then has to find his way out of them. Some of the situations he gets into himself, some of them he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. In this one, he finally goes outside America. He actually comes over to London, England, which is a nice change. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It's a good, solid action thriller by Lee Child. And so far, every Lee Child book has been just a good, solid read. So I'd recommend this if you like action thrillers. The next book is Tau Zero by Paul Anderson. As you can tell by the cover, this is a science fiction book written in 1970, and the idea of it is slightly unusual for some standards because it is a spaceship that is going away from Earth and it goes into a near light speed drive, and something goes wrong and it gets stuck at this near light speed, and the crew then have to not go crazy on board because they are isolated, they are stuck, they cannot slow the ship down, and they don't know what's going to happen because they're going unbelievably far away from Earth, so far that they might even not be able to find Earth again. And it's a really interesting story, odd, and it has lots of technical details, but one that I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I'd recommend this to anybody who likes science fiction but also doesn't mind a bit more of a hard science fiction with some technical details in it as well. The next book is The Songs of Distant Earth by Arthur C. Clarke. As you may know by now, I have a fondness for Arthur C. Clarke books, and overall I really enjoyed this book. The idea of it is that the Earth is on the verge of dying due to natural disaster and the sun going supernova. So there are a series of colony ships going out to the stars to help the human race survive. One of these colony ships stops off at a world that has been inhabited by humans centuries before on a early colonisation trip to get raw materials, and it's a interesting tale about the culture mix of the very much recent and quite current Earth society with the former Earth culture society on this planet, which has been affected obviously by generations of development of their own, and their society is still Earth-like, but it's very different, and it's an interesting mixture and one that I really liked. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Now the next book is the fantasy book for my SFF reading project, and that is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time series, which is 14 books in total, and quite simply I will be reading more of this series because I really like this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads without question. This is obviously being inspired by Tolkien, and I'm pretty sure that other people have said this as well. It's a tale of adventure going across country to try and get rid of a presence, let's say. I'm trying not to say too much to give away the plot. And it's a really fun book. It's quite a hefty book. It's over 800 pages, but one that I think is well worth reading. The penultimate book is The Swarm by Frank, whose surname I'm not going to attempt to pronounce because I would make a hash of it more than likely. And this is a science fiction novel with a very heavy environmental science theme to it. It's about the oceans of the world have been infected or attacked by something, and there are a series of massive natural disasters occurring all around the world. Nobody knows why these are happening, whether it's natural or some sort of terrorist attack, nobody knows. And it's an interesting story, but way too long. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads for that reason alone. It was good, but it needed to be halved in length. It's 880 pages long, and I felt every page of that. It could have been 440 pages quite comfortably with some good editing, and certain sections that were completely unnecessary to the plot as well, which I don't even know why they're there because they didn't add anything to the story and they didn't really even develop the characters as well. But it was a good story, just frankly too long. And finally, the last book is another Arthur C. Clarke book, and that is The City and the Stars. This is a reread for me. I read it 2 years ago, I think, or maybe 3. And overall, I really liked this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The story is about the human race has expanded to the stars over the course of millions of years. They encounter something that they were scared of or they didn't like, so they retreated back to Earth completely. And now there's just this one remaining city left, and that is where the entire human population live. And one person, Alvin, he thinks there should be more to life and more to the world than just this enclosed dome-like existence where everything is done for them because of the ultra-advanced technology. They don't have to grow crops or do any kind of work. They can just follow their own leisure pursuits at will. And it's a really interesting plot overall, but with cultural differences and ideas of what mankind could be if left for a very long time. And I would recommend this to science fiction fans who just want a really interesting read with some really interesting philosophical ideas in it. And with that said, that's actually it for all the books of this video. If you've read any of these books, then let me know in the comments below and we can talk about it. Or if you plan to read them, then let me know that as well. All my social links, Twitter and Goodreads, will be in my description below, of course, as they always are. And that's pretty much it for this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.